Providing quality fruit for our customers involves a year-long process. The task of pruning apple trees begins in January and continues through March. A special machine called a jarret is used to reach the higher branches. Lower limbs are carefully pruned by employees using hand shears. Beginning in April, the ground is prepared for planting trees. The soil must first be disked up with a tractor. The next step of the process involves measuring so that the trees are planted in rows, carefully positioned 5 feet apart. Fruit trees must be ordered a year in advance. Trees are carefully removed from large crates. One man is seated on the tree planter and plants 1 tree at a time. After the trees are planted in the first season, hand shears are used to prune the young trees in order to optimize growth. Later in the month of April during bloom, beehives are rented for the purpose of pollinating the apple trees. This process takes place normally in a span of 5 to 7 days, weather permitting. Beehives are typically handled at night while the bees are least active. Once the fruit is set, and due to Ohio's inconsistent spring weather, Bauman Orchards protects the crop by utilizing frost fans that serve to elevate the temperature by 1 to 2 degrees. 5 frost fans are on location for use at Bauman Orchards. Peach pruning also occurs in April and is usually completed in less than 1 month. Oftentimes, a peach crop needs to be thinned out when too many peaches are set on a single limb. This additional procedure must be done by hand in June. Harvesting the peach trees is no simple task. Each peach tree must be harvested on 3 separate occasions until each of the varieties of peaches is ripened. Peach picking starts at the end of July and continues up to the beginning of September. Peach picking is performed exclusively by hand and placed into half-bushel crates. These crates are then loaded onto wagons and transported in by tractors. Finally, peaches are placed into coolers to reduce heat before the packing process begins. Bauman Orchards grows over 20 different varieties of peaches. Red Haven remains the most popular. Picking apples begins by the end of August. Bauman Orchards grows different varieties including Honeycrisp and Gala. The main varieties begin harvest by mid-September through the end of October. All apples are picked by hand and placed into 20-bushel bins. Next, the apples are hauled in from the orchard with the bin transporter. The apples are then stored in coolers at a temperature of 34 degrees. Atmospheric conditions are carefully controlled by removing oxygen. By depriving the apples of oxygen, their deterioration rate significantly decreases so that the apples can be packaged later during the months of January through April. Packing the apples requires great care and attention. Bauman Orchards starts its apple grader beginning in September and ending in June. Tow motor operators place 20-bushel apple bins into a water dumpster in order to begin the apple grading process. The bin is lowered into the water by a lever, allowing the apples to float to the top. As the apples proceed through the apple grader, an employee carefully monitors the flow of apples, removing blemished apples or seconds and placing them into a cider bin. The remaining apples continue to proceed to the polishing brushes and dryer. The apples continue on a belt conveyor as they head towards the computer station to be sized for the program drop stations. Finally, the apples are packaged for delivery to grocery stores and various farm markets throughout Ohio. Bauman Orchards takes special pride in preparing quality cider. Cider apples are emptied from 20-bushel bins into an apple dumpster called a continuous Shinko press, where they are brushed while being applied with a chlorine rinse. The apples travel to the elevator, moving into the grinder, and finally arrive to the press. The apple's pulp is then released from the bottom of a folded cloth. As the cider is drained, it is pumped into a filter and finally passes through an ultraviolet light processor that ensures the cider is not heated but conforms to all FDA requirements. The cider is pumped into 3 holding tanks capable of storing 2,800 gallons of cider. The cider remains in the holding tanks for a minimum of 12 hours, where it is cooled and awaits final processing. Cider is pumped to the jugging room and is bottled in gallon and half-gallon containers for distribution and delivery to Bauman Orchards Farm Market and local grocery stores. Bauman Orchards is capable of jugging up to 400 gallons of cider in 1 hour. Cider is made daily during the peak months of September through December and then continues through May on an as-needed basis. Growing delicious fruit is not a simple task. It is an ongoing process requiring knowledge, hard work, specialized equipment, training, great care, and attention. Bauman Orchards is a family-operated business devoted to supplying to its customers the highest quality of fruit available anywhere. While apples and peaches remain the mainstay fruits grown at Bauman's, it also offers pears, strawberries, plums, tomatoes, sweet corn, peppers, and much, much more.